place and situation tonight. Thank you for this opportunity to gather here together in your name, to hear from our current and potential leaders. Thank you for freedom of choice, freedom to choose and follow you, freedom to choose to live in this community, and freedom to choose our elected leaders. We thank you for these men who have stepped up and are willing to serve in a servant leadership position for our community. We lift up our current and potential leaders to you today. Draw them close to yourself, grant them wisdom, and help them in making the right decisions that align with what you would like to accomplish in your will and your plan for our community. Guide these men that they would yield to your spirit and your wisdom according to your perfect will. Thank you for everyone present this evening that have chosen to take an active role on what matters in our community. Give us eyes to see and ears to hear and hearts to understand what you are doing so that we use our freedom of choice wisely and that it lines up with your perfect will. May everything that transpires tonight be pleasing in your sight, and may it bring you all the glory, honor, and praise that you alone are worthy of. Thank you for your presence here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, just a little bit about tonight. We'd like to thank, they'll circulate around. If you write down a question, just hold your hand up. She will come and grab it, bring it up to the front. Kim will be collecting those. At our break point, Tanya and I will look through those. We may combine them depending on, last time we did this, we had a lot of them basically say the same thing. So we may combine those, but please just understand that we're doing this for brevity and everybody's question is important. We'll do our very best here. Now the rules for tonight, each candidate will get 2 minutes for their response. We'll start with Philip, and we'll work our way over. The next question, we'll start with Bill, and we'll just kind of do a rotation that way. So everybody has an equal opportunity to answer the question first, at least once. We will have 1 minute time limit for rebuttals on what's said, but from one candidate to another, if you want to rebut what somebody says. The questions, as I said, will be on a rotational basis. We will have a timekeeper who will give you a flashcard of 30 seconds or time's up. I will give you a little bit of leeway at the end. Try not to cut you off, but please be respectful of your fellow candidates and everybody's time here. You will also get a introduction of, sorry about that. You'll get a chance to introduce yourselves, and at the end of the evening, after the questions from the attendees, you will get a 90-second closing statement that you can give. Any questions from the candidates? Okay. Phil, if you want to start with yourself for your introduction.
Hi, my name is Phil Call, and I lived in Waterford for 20 years, married with three great children, great wife. I'm not really a politician. I consider myself kind of the working blue-collar guy, small business owner. And I chose to run because I love this town. I mean, it's a great town. I have family ties. I know it's the village, but my aunt and uncle ran and owned the Century Store for many years. I've always had fond memories as a kid growing up in this area, and I think it's a beautiful area, and I hope that we can keep it beautiful and that my kids will keep their roots planted here. That's basically my whole gist of it.
Introduction, and then we'll wrap around.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm pleased to be here in front of you with a chance to address your questions tonight. I'm Bill McCormick. My wife and I built a home in Waterford here in 2019. But prior to that, I've been almost a lifelong Wisconsin resident. Grew up in Elm Grove, went to Brookfield East High School. From there, went and got my bachelor's degree in speech communication from the University of Oshkosh. Growing up, my parents had a small business. I should mention that both my parents hadn't gone to college. I was the first in the family to do so. But growing up, my dad was in a blue-collar role for many years in factories, and then they started a small business. And so I got the pleasure of understanding how businesses work as I was growing up. When I was about 16, I started my own business for myself, and from there that allowed me to pay for college, and also allowed us to pay for my brother's college too through that business. After college, I've been in careers largely as a sales leader and a business development leader. I've held VP of sales and business development roles. I've held roles as director of supply chain. I managed large capital equipment sales as well as large capital equipment projects. And most recently, in the last 5 years, after moving out here, I've been working with the WWMD, Waterford Waterway Management District, as the APA chairman. I'm in charge of the wheat harvesting equipment for that organization. The reason I'm running is I too love Waterford. This is an awesome community, and I think that we need some stronger leadership on the board. So that's my primary reason. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Chris, could we get somebody to close that door? Thanks. Thank you, Jim. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Rechkowski. Thank you so much for making the time to be here with us tonight. We really appreciate it. My wife, Judy, and I have lived here in the town of Waterford for the last 10 years. We bought our home on Tishigan Lake in 2016, and it really has been a dream come true for us to be out here. We've been together for 13 years, Judy and I. We are a blended family of 5 adult kids, spouses, 5 grandkids, and very fortunate that all of them live within 45 minutes of us here, which is a very big blessing for us. I also am not a politician. I have never before this moment held any kind of public office before. I am a 44-year IT professional. That is how I spent my career. I retired in 2022. I am a proud graduate of the 12th grade. I never went to college. I started in my career very early, right out of high school, in entry-level roles and worked my way up. The last 20 years of my career was spent with Northwestern Mutual here in southeastern Wisconsin in senior IT leadership roles at that company. I've been serving on the town board since May of last year, where I was appointed to fill the vacant seat that Tim Siklinski vacated when he became the chair. I spent 2 years on the planning commission for the town of Waterford before that, working largely on the cooperative boundary agreement with the village. That was a dominant part of that effort. In my role on the town, I am the liaison to the clerk and treasurer's office, also the Waterford Sanitary District, and I am the board liaison to the operations committee. I am looking to be elected into this position because I am concerned about the future of our town, and I believe that my leadership can help move us forward.
Hello, my name is Dave Orton, and I want to start out with a little bit of a quote because I think it's important to the town. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "Our ability to reach unity in diversity will be the beauty and the test of our civilization." I think that should spread out to what we're talking about tonight, unity. So I'll go on. I'm doing it for the same reason everybody else up on this table is doing. I love my community. And when I say community, I don't mean just town. Waterford as a whole is a community, and I believe it has to be looked at that way. This division between the town and the village has to stop. My opinion. Secondly, we can move our town forward and flourish if we work together. This will happen through clear agendas and plans, though things will always change. We need mutual agreed upon boundary for the village and the town, mutually agreed upon. We need to support our PD. I got one more thing to say here. Oh, I got 5 minutes. We need a solid growth plan, not a make-believe one, not one that isn't followed. We need to put something down in writing, maybe use SUPAC to help us. There are some starting points I'd like the board to take. These are the starting points. I'm going to end this with a quote from Ronald Reagan. He has faith that you and I have the ability, dignity, and to make our own decisions and determine our own destiny. So with that, I could have gone into my background. I have an extensive background. Anybody that wants to hear about it, I'd be happy to tell you. I'm all for moving Waterford forward together.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Doug Schwartz, and I'm running for Town Board Supervisor. I've lived in the area since 1956, attended St. Thomas, Waterford Union High School, and then went to United Technical Institute for Electronics. Attended classes for supervision, for labor through the UAW, and many classes for fire and EMS. I have been married almost 55 years to my wonderful wife, Sandra, who puts up with me doing these things, which I have to commend her for. I have 4 children, 12 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Most of my life, I have tried to give back to the communities. I spent 40 years on Waterford Fire and Rescue, serving as chairman, rescue captain, training officer, and fire officer. 6 years on the Waterford Grade School Board, and I'm in my 9th year on the Waterford Union High School Board. I also served 3 years on the town board, and presently I'm on the police committee. I believe I can give it the time it takes to do this job since I'm retired. I also don't come in with any predisposed ideas, and I look to do my own research and not rubber stamp anything. Some of the ideas I have are, and not in any particular order: 1, have listening sessions. I had them when I was on the grade school board and on the high school board. You'd be surprised the information you get when you sit down and talk to the people. 2, have a part-time town administrator to help run the town, move the town forward. I think if we had this, we might not be in the predicament we are on Gianna Park Road. Have a 5 or 10-year plan for road improvements. I think this could be financed through a bond issue. Work with the county to upgrade our 2030 plan to our 2050 plan. Have a strategic plan for the town. Talk to the residents, see what they want to do in 5, 10, or 15 years. Look at forming an industrial park in the town. Work with the village on our border agreement, and I believe if we have a border agreement with them, we can have a TIF district, which would then help finance the industrial park. I have a couple more, but I see my stop is up, so thank you very much.
All right, the first question for Phil. There are many challenges facing our community. What would you say are the top 2 that need to be addressed immediately?
I think it's touching the border agreement is a big thing, because we can't grow, without a border agreement. The 20 acres to 1 mile kind of, it hurts the building process. And I know the village is going to be willing to work with us on that, and that needs to be a priority. We need to grow, but we need to grow smartly. We just can't willy-nilly go, all right, let's put up some storage sheds here or there, and hopefully we can get revenue. The other thing is, I think we need to be more fiscally responsible. We don't have a rainy day fund. We're not sitting on a large amount of cash. We're living, hand to mouth, really. And I think that is a really big deal that I don't know if everybody realizes. We can't keep the same trajectory, and then we start borrowing, then when do we stop? We have to live within our means, so to speak. I think that's a big issue.
You're next. Bill.
Yeah, I would just play off of that. I think, number one, it's important for our future, for growth. We need to generate more revenue for this town. That, I think, also means that we need to look at either a part-time or full-time administrator for the town to really help us develop a plan. Somebody said it earlier, and they're correct. There is no plan for this town, and that would be the first step forward, is to really create a plan for sustained, systematic growth in the town to generate the revenue that we need. Also, what I feel is that there's more work to be done with the police department. Unfortunately, the police department went through a lot of turmoil in recent times, and I know that they're working to build that back up. I think it's important that we shore that up. We right-size that department for whatever that needs to be. And I think we need to work more closely with the village in that regard as well for that service.
So there's going to be a lot of common themes here tonight. In terms of priority issues, for me, and I've said it before, this town has a serious revenue problem. Our tax levy has been largely flat for the last 10 or 11 years. Very little bit variability in that, and that is driven by the fact that there's virtually no growth that's been happening in this town. You can't survive that way because the expense side of the ledger continues to go up, and as tight as you need to manage expenses, and we are trying to do that, without increased revenue, we're going to have a problem. So we have to have a growth plan. We have to have a strategy that drives that growth plan. We can't do this alone. We have to team up with the village and collaborate with the village to work together so that we can both thrive together. And I believe there's lots of opportunities to do that. The state of Wisconsin is incenting municipalities like ours with significant grant funding for communities like towns and villages to work together, get creative in addressing their growth challenges and their expense challenges. And I believe that's a key priority for us.
Well, I agree with what everybody else has said, absolutely 100%. Growth is important to the town. For me though, I got a couple other ones that I'm gonna address quickly here. One is, this town doesn't have any standards, policies, and procedures in place. We appointed an operations committee. We currently had a budget problem with a project. I made a commitment to the chairman, Chris, of that committee, that we'll work together and try to come up with some policies and procedures that we can turn over to the board. I mean, we can't keep doing old school stuff. We gotta do new school stuff, and that's important to me. Lastly, my other main concern was that we do not look at the village as a adversary. I've seen that too much in my time here, that we can't get along. Well, we can. With the right leadership, we can work with the village. We can work with the village. Thank you.
Thank you. I would have to agree with the other people. Definitely working to get a border agreement, work on a strategic plan for the town. Again, working with the county to update to our 2050 plan. We also need to get revenue. Like Tom said, how are we going to do it? It's a good question. That's why I suggested possibly industrial park. Great way to bring revenue back into the town. Another idea might be have a couple referendums just for information. One, what do the town people want? Do they want to see a planned growth? Do they like it the way it is? The other one, which I'll probably hear a lot about, is should we get with the village and the town and form a fourth-class city? Might be a great idea, but there again, what does the public want? If we have a non-binding referendum, we could get this kind of information. Thank you.
All right, to build off our rotation, Bill starts our second question. What's your vision for solutions for tax relief locally?
All right, so unfortunately, it's my understanding that it's been quite some time since we've done true assessments or full assessments of properties in the town. People have told me the last assessment officially was 2008. So unfortunately, for many of us, me included, our taxes are going to increase from where they are today. That's more than likely going to happen. What we can do going forward is what we've been talking about with this whole group here, and that is growth. We have to, in order to be able to generate more revenue in the town, we've got to be able to do more development, strategic, sustainable development for the town, so we can get more, and with that, we also need to get the boundary agreement done. Because there's a lot of land right now that's locked up a mile and a half from the village's boundary, where it's my understanding if a farmer was to sell his land to a developer, those lot sizes cannot be less than 20 acres as it stands today. So we definitely have to look at that and get that changed. We have to work with the village on that. But I know people have mentioned an industrial park. That is not a bad idea. I would probably advocate more towards an office park. Industrial parks, as you may recall or may know, are located very closely to interstate systems, such as New Orleans. We don't have that here, but we do have, as a good start, with Case New Holland in town here, and I think we could build off of that strategically. So.
All right, I'll be very straight with everybody. This is not the time to be talking about tax relief, in my opinion. We are in a big world of hurt as it comes to being able to keep up with the expenses that we have, and everyone can see how our infrastructure is deteriorating around us. Very, very tough time. We need to equalize the tax burden across everyone within the town. That's long overdue. It has to happen through this property tax reassessment that's going to be going on. At the end of the day, it goes back, as Bill has already pointed out, and others here, that we have to drive a growth plan that increases the revenue side of the equation. That has to happen. We have to be able to invest in what it's going to take in the skill set and professional capacity to bring expertise in here that can drive a growth plan, that can create a strategic plan for growth. But I've looked at the budget, I've crawled through the budget, I see where the budget's at. There's always room to trim expenses, but nothing that I see in this budget is going to trim expenses to the extent that people are thinking that they're going to get significant tax relief out of that. That's what I see right now. That's my honest opinion of where we're at.
I echo Tom's concerns. I've made the statement to people that if we continue down the path we're going, this town might be going into bankruptcy. And I mean that sincerely. We need to change how we do business. Now, as far as the tax levy goes, you know, we're handcuffed somewhat by the state, quite hard. So how do we raise our taxes without going against the law? First and foremost is, with this assessment, we need to educate every individual we can on what it means. Taxes are a mean animal. The town's portion of your tax bill is minimal compared to what everything else is on your tax bill. We need to educate people and show them what a reassessment actually does. It takes the pie of money and distributes it equally across all residents. So that's my position on the taxes. We've got to get that done. And as far as increasing the levy, I'm telling you, it's going to happen at some point. We can't keep going the way we are. Thank you.
They are correct. We can increase the tax levy because we are governed by the state as to how much we can raise it. I believe it goes on new buildings, and obviously there isn't that much in the town. If you look at the pie, I believe the town is the smallest part of that pie. So how are we going to do it? During an industrial park, or like he said, an office park would be a great idea. I thought when he said highways, I was thinking close to I-43. You see a lot of growth already in Mukwonago, and we're not that far away from Mukwonago. The other thing would be road improvements. We could have a bond issue, which other municipalities have had, to cover fixing the roads. Instead of going out every year and deciding we'll fix this road and that road, you have a 5 or 10 year plan. We need to move into the future. The other thing would be a town administrator. Town administrator, you know, they say, where would you get a part-time one? Well, somebody that's retired obviously has a lot of experience, and I'm sure would love to work just part-time. He could find out where there's grants available, what money is out there for us to go forward. Thank you.
You know, taxes are anything but fair. And there's a lot of, we have to grow, but some realism too is with an industrial park, you know, towards the rural parts, you know, we don't have natural gas. We don't have a sewer system. You're not gonna get a big company wanting to build a huge warehouse and they don't have any, they have to run their own natural gas. The energy is not gonna do that. I think we have to be realistic on growth. I think it's something that we probably should have like a consultant come in and say, this is what we can do. And the other thing too is, you know, we're betting on a levy, maybe we can increase this, but there's a governor's election coming up. And I know one of the candidates running on a property tax freeze and a levy freeze. So I don't feel like we can put a lot of emphasis on, well, maybe we get the levy increased or what have you. But I think it all boils down to we have to live within our means, and you know, we might have to make some cuts somewhere, or you know, do things differently. I feel like the rhetoric has always been, well, this is the way it's always been. We do things just because it's the way it's always been. We don't embrace technology, which could probably save us on some things, or you know, bring in somebody or have any ideas. You know, we have I feel like the current board has very little outside input. They just kind of do it with what their motions are for the time, and I think that more public input and I think more outside input would help us.
All right, you're up, Tom. With rising costs across the board and limitations by the state and how we can raise money, some of these questions do kind of overlap, gentlemen. What are your solutions to the budgetary issues we face as a town?
Well, I've touched on a couple of them already. Number one, we need to get much more aggressive and focused on getting grant funding. There is grant money out there. There's significant grant money available to municipalities like us. It takes work to go after that, but we need to focus on getting grant money to drive some increased revenue to help us survive. There's also the opportunity, as I mentioned, to collaborate more effectively with the village to find ways to optimize efficiencies across both municipalities, to drive down expenses, to capitalize on skill sets and resources that we have and share more than we share today. I had proposed in the last budget session that perhaps with the retirement of the DPW supervisor from the town, that we collaborate with the village and share DPW leadership and optimize the leadership structure of the DPW across both the town and the village. And that, in my opinion, would have saved the town over $50,000 a year. Now, that's no commentary on Jim and the great job that he's already doing in the position that he's in, but it's that kind of thinking that we need in order to change the way things are running today. And in my opinion, there has not been that kind of thinking from the board and no action taken in that regard.
The budget, first and foremost. We need actual budgeting by line item. We don't really have a detailed budget. We have a budget. My experience in government has been line item budgets. And if you need to change your budget, you do it through budget amendments. And that's how government should be run. Not just, okay, here's a pot of money, vote. That's not how it should work. That's one. Number two is raising how we fund things. Police department. I know I and another person have committed to helping the PD raise money for the necessities they need. Them are the type of things that are important. You can't always rely on your taxes to pay for something. You gotta get involved in the community and work together.
Thank you. Like I had said, the town administrator would be a great start. Another thing is shared services. Like Tom had said, I know if we share services with the village, there was some money from the state that would help fund it. A prime example, it wasn't a big thing, but court system. We could have one court, which would mean one judge, one clerk. Good start. I'm sure there's other things out there. Like I had said, look at municipal bonds for funding our roads. Yes, unfortunately, it would raise the taxes, but you'd have a plan for the next 5 or 10 years. Right now, I don't know if a lot of people know, the town has $1 million loan out. And we're paying, I believe, 5.25%. Municipal, if you go out to the bonds, I'm sure you could get it lower. I know the high school last year had a $14 million bond issue. They got at 3.6% interest for 10 years. They're looking at having another bond issue this year for 10.9, and it hasn't gone out yet. It will be going out February 2nd, but they're saying it should come in at 3.9 or lower. This would be a great way to keep financing our town and keep it going. Thank you.
I think everybody has valid points, but I just get nervous with the bond thing. I feel like we're just starting to borrow. We already borrowed once, and I think we're just kicking the can down the road a little bit. And I mean, shared services would be an awesome way. Okay, I think everything should be on the table. And if you're going to have your residents come through with a tax increase, we have to, as elected officials, we have to be prepared to say, listen, this is what we're going to do to help. We understand because nobody's going to be happy with a property tax increase. Nobody. But we have to at least show that we're going to make an effort to cut costs, give them more bang for their buck, and help them along the way to understand, hey, we're not doing this on purpose, but this is what needs to be done.
Yeah, no question about it with the person who's asking the question, rising costs. We are all affected today by rising costs. It's only going to get worse as we move forward. Cost of new vehicles, trucks, equipment, it's all going up. Cost of labor is going up. We had an example in the December town board meeting where the fire chief from Michigan came in and explained a 100% increase in one line item of his budget was related to just labor costs going up. So I think some people have brought up good ideas here where I think we need to look at better collaboration where it makes sense with the village. So I'm all about exploring those types of options. Unfortunately, if we do not grow this town and do not increase our levy, we're going to be having to look at loans such as bonds and things. I mean, that's just going to have to be a fact going forward if we don't do something and start to grow the town. The other thing that might be a possibility to explore is maybe we have a town of Waterford owned property or asset that generates some revenue. Maybe that's a possibility for our future as well to address the need of additional revenue. If we can't get it from the state, we can't get it from our own increased levies.
All right, this one's a multi-part question, so yeah, follow along, Dave. We moved here because we wanted to be on the water, have the small town feel with easy access to more heavily populated areas. Describe your vision as how we can keep the small town feel and at the same time grow the tax base without crowding our neighborhoods, large apartment complexes, or business parks in our backyards. That's number one. It's a two-part question, so go ahead and answer that, and then I'll give you the second part.
Okay. Yes, we do have water people. We have land people. We got country people. We got all kinds of folks that live here, okay? When I looked at moving into this area, me and my wife, we were doing it with the idea of our grandchildren going to one of the top-rated schools in our state. We looked at a police department that was rated quite high with safety for the community, and that's why we came here. Now, we have to grow. I mean, we cannot stay the way we are. We can still have our Mayberry fill, but we gotta grow. Now, Doug brought up interesting ideas, as did Tom. Now, we're not that far from the highway as we'd like to think. We've got Highway 43. We've got Highway 164. We got Highway 83. So, and a lot of that is rural areas that is not developed, and I bet you farmers would jump at the chance, given the terrible situation they have right now, to sell land at a premium price for growth. So that's how I would approach it.
Okay, second part of this question. Essentially, what does town growth look like to you?
Well, that's a difficult question, because what it looks like to me may not be what it looks like to you. So the only way to look at growth is put the people together, use a government type agency like Sewer PAC, and come up with a plan, a land use plan that benefits what the board wants, what the committees want, what the resident wants. And that takes meetings, that takes input. That's how you start a growth plan, using people that have done it in the past for multiple cities, villages, and towns in the state of Wisconsin.
Before you start, Doug, please, folks, just a reminder, we do have refreshments over here, so you're welcome to get up and grab those as we go along. Thank you for your patience, Doug, for letting me step on you.
No problem. I believe your first question was how to keep the small town atmosphere.
Yeah, that's paraphrased. If you want me to read it again?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's a good question. As you get more developments, you do lose the small town atmosphere. I think first thing to do is sit down and talk to the people. What do the people want? We do need to get more income, but a lot of people might say they don't want it. I could see developments, but in larger lots. Granted, right now we don't have sewer or water in most of the town, so you would have to have your own well, you'd have to have your own septic system. That brings up the point of probably 4 or 5 acre lots. Work with the county to get our 2050 plan to see what the county wants us to do. There again, we are close to I-43 to have the revenue there, but we need to talk to the people. The one thing that's been missing lately is community input. And I really think that's where we need to start. What do the people want? I might have a vision of the farmers selling and have 5 acre parcels, and it'd be great. They might not. It's gonna be, what do the people want in the township? I'm sure they don't wanna have what's going on in DeGrave, where you look out your window and you see what your neighbor's doing. I know I drive past that every day, and actually that's in my backyard. And I sure hope that doesn't happen in this town. Thank you. Oh, basically I sort of answered it already with, yeah.
Gentlemen, too, if you need me to repeat a question, don't hesitate to ask. Some of these are multi-part, so.
So why don't you repeat the question?
Sure. This is as it was submitted. We moved here because 1, we wanted to be on the water. Number 2, have the small town feel with easy access to the more heavily populated areas. Describe your vision on how we can keep the small town feel and at the same time grow the tax base without crowded neighborhoods, large apartment complexes, or business parks in our backyards.
So I think one of the things that should be brought up is the village. The village was very aggressive. I believe that they wanted to land ascendics and some major businesses, and they said the foot traffic just wasn't there. So I think it's unrealistic to think that we're gonna grow with a big industrial park right off the bat, or a Lowe's is gonna come in our backyard. I think that the vision should be, we're a housing community. I think that should be a big focus for the interim. I understand an office development would be great, but I think for the short term, and I think we should focus on growing the housing, and that is a big thing where we could thrive at. We could have, you know, a great community with that. I know the tax base isn't as quite great as, you know, business, but maybe we should be more focused on that for the interim.
Do you want me to read the second part again?
Sure, why not? Just
Sure. What does the town growth look like for you?
I think the town growth to me should be housing, maybe some light industrial, maybe parlay off a case, maybe we can get another little office building in there. And I think that's our best bet. I think we should focus on something that's reasonable and obtainable.
The first part of the question I can certainly relate. My wife and I in 2019 built on the Fox River. So we do love this waterway, we love this community. It is a small town feel, and my goal would be to continue to make it feel like a small town. I think that's one of its great attributes, that in the fact that we have a wonderful resource here, natural resource, that those in the town, in the village can take advantage of, and the public does take advantage of it as well. What does this growth look like to me as we move forward? Again, it's got to be well planned out growth. It's got to be sustainable growth and systematic growth. It's going to be a combination of things. I think it's going to be a combination of developing some lands. If we can get some landowners to sell to developers for subdivisions and things. Some of those subdivisions may not be tied to the sewer system. They might be conventional septic systems and wells. I think that the office park approach is not a bad one to think about. Also, you know, I also view our community as one community. I view it as Waterford. And I go down to the village a lot, and it's a wonderful place. And I think it could be even better, and I know the village is working towards that, and I think they have plans for that. So maybe we can collaborate and work with the village on that to enhance the entire community. You know, why would we want to sit here and have our own plan and the village has their plan? I think we need to work more closely with the village and see if there's collaboration into the future, and make sure that we don't overdevelop as each municipality goes forward and deals with its own challenges.
All right, my ideas in terms of how to preserve this small town feel, which I absolutely love myself and value significantly. Several of these gentlemen have talked about the need for a strategic plan. You have to plan. There has to be a well laid out, well designed plan in terms of what's going to go where. And the plan should have within it design and architectural standards for anything that goes in there, whether that's a business, whether that's housing, whether it's commercial, whether it's industrial. There need to be design standards and architectural standards that lay the groundwork for what the requirements are for any potential growth or development that comes in. That's fundamental. And too many communities make the mistake of not having those kinds of standards in place ahead of time, and then they get what they get. And at the end of the day, it doesn't hang together very well. We need businesses that provide stable, well-paying, desirable jobs that people are going to want, that people are going to desire to live here and to be here. We have to have businesses, we have to be thoughtful about the kind of business that we do bring into this community. The same goes for any kinds of stores or restaurants or anything like that. You know, I'm not advocating for, you know, miles of fast food chain restaurants up and down Highway 164. You can find desirable, small town oriented growth through restaurants and businesses that provide the kinds of services and the kinds of meals that are not run-of-the-mill cookie cutter things that you see in other areas around us. And then the other thing, I guess I'm drifting into, well, what does growth look like to me? It's those things that can preserve the small town feel that we have and not crowd things out. But if you don't have a plan, you're not going to get there. When it comes to housing, I get people's perspective that says, listen, we just want large lots, large single-family homes. That's what we want in this community. Well, I got to tell you folks, I think that's desirable and we want that, but my kids are all in their 30s. They have little ones. They can't afford large lots and large single-family homes. And we have a lot of young people. You got to look at the entire demographic of everyone who lives here and who wants to live here, and you have to provide a balanced set of housing that appeals to a variety of different demographics. Because we were all 20 at one time and needed someplace to live. We were all starting our families at one time and needed someplace affordable to live. And we're all retired now, or people are retired now, and they're looking for something else. You can't just choose one thing. You have to have a balance.
I got one thing to say on the whole planning stage. I've thrown the term sewer pack out quite a few times. It stands for Southeastern Wisconsin Plan Commission. It's an actual commission, and this is all they do. So I think that'd be a good starting point for any growth or any planning.
All right, at that, I think we're at the 45-minute mark. Let's take a 10-minute break. Give you guys everybody to make a little, get some refreshments or stretch out your legs. We will meet back here in